A little while ago, maybe in the last year or two, I can't quite remember, there were some terms that were becoming very popular in business circles. Amongst those terms were things like mompreneur and fempreneur. Of course, I have friends who, in the wedding and the event space, were fond of these titles and would often use them on their Instagram handles, Twitter handles, and where have you, and talk about themselves in those terms at public events, networking sessions, and things of that nature. I wasn't a fan of those terms, and I still am not. And luckily for me, they have now fallen out of favor. And so I am free to now talk about what my misgivings were towards those terms and why I don't think we should be using them in the first place. Heads up, these things come round in circles, and so I think we are just about getting ready for another round of these fancy titles that are going to come up again. So, what's the problem with being a mompreneur or a fempreneur or a dadpreneur or any of these new terms that people try to cook up by? Well, I'm sure it's obvious what the root of these terms are. A mompreneur is both a mom and an entrepreneur, and a fempreneur is both a female and an entrepreneur. So, okay, so first off, these terms are lifestyle labels. So, lifestyle labels are very good because they're emotionally invigorating and they help with your daily drive. So, if you wake up and with that Acorn song in your head, yeah, I'm a hustler. What else? Who else had a hustler song? Because there was a time when it was all about hustle or grind, and people's Instagram handles reflected all those kind of slangs. Instagram handles, Twitter handles, things of that nature. So, if you have your lifestyle labels that are emotionally invigorating, you wake up and you're like, yeah, I'm a hustler, I'm a go-getter, I'm a mompreneur, I'm a fempreneur, and all that is good. Because it boosts your daily drive, and the more motivated you are, the chances are that you are more likely to get things done because you are excited and you have all that rah-rah behind you. Unfortunately, these terms are conceptually limiting. A mompreneur, a fempreneur, a hustler, a grinder, a thrifter, a grifter, whatever term it is that you want to use, automatically puts you within these lifestyle labels that are not quite suited to building businesses that are separate from you and that have a sense of sustainability about them if you are not around. So if you're thinking a mompreneur and a fempreneur, then ultimately your business pursuits, your business identity, all these things are tied to you being in the picture. And so it's not a given that if you run around calling yourself a fempreneur or a mompreneur, that you're not going to be able to build an organization as big and as vibrant as Ebony TV, like Mo Abudu has done. But labels are important and they do affect the kind of horizon that you set before yourself. So if you run around using labels that limit what your horizon is going to, that limit the horizon that you see because you self-identify with it, then your options become limited the more you take root in this identity, day after day after day. For instance, all those boys who are running around back when the hustle ethic was a thing, saying, calling themselves hustler, grifter, grafter, grinder, and all those things. The hustle, the grift, and the grind mentality, of course, is kind of opportunistic. So if you're running around with labels that make you sound, feel driven, yes, but opportunistic, at the end of the day, you're probably not going to sit down and devote attention towards building one solid, grounded business because you'll always be in the graft mindset. This is what is moving. How can I hustle? How can I pull this? How can I pull that? How can we organize this? How can we run this one? How can we run that one? So it really is important what it is that you call yourself. So for those of you who ran around calling yourselves mompreneurs and fempreneurs, I don't think it's any surprise that you don't do so anymore, because these terms have outlived their usefulness. So they were good for motivation while they were around, but I really think they limited your perspective, and of course, that's why they have fallen out of fashion. But of course, these things are going to come back again. So that is my chief objection to folks who run around calling themselves mompreneur, fempreneur, dadpreneur, and all these other terms that are keenly tied to your sense of self. So they're good for your daily drive, but they're not suitable to building long term separate entities, sustainable businesses separate from us over the long term. Now, those of you who know me personally know that what I think is that the old labels work just fine. It's okay to say I'm a saleswoman. It's okay to say I'm a businesswoman. It's okay to say I'm self employed. The old terms work just fine. And the reason why I like the old terms are because they are clearly tied to some substantive thing that if you pay attention to the discipline and learn the skill, you'll be just fine. So the person who runs around saying I'm a saleswoman, that is uniquely tied to the idea of sales. So if you just buckle down and try and learn the sales craft, you'll be fine. The person who runs around saying I'm a businesswoman is also tied to this idea of building a business. A business is a separate entity that can stand apart from me. It's not the same as the person who runs around saying I'm a self-employed person. So, well, maybe I haven't given this much thought to properly articulate it, but the bottom line, what I'm trying to say is that these old terms work perfectly fine and orient you in the right mindset and push you exactly where it is that you need to go. So lifestyle labels: mompreneur, fempreneur, hustler, grinder, thrifter, is it OMO or OBO? I can't remember what that one was. Anyway, bottom line is these terms, the old terms, they work just fine. And if we think about it, if you look about it, looking at the business of history and capitalism and stuff like that, the older folks didn't go around giving themselves grandiose titles to make themselves get in the mood or feel all right. So I doubt that back in the days when oil was becoming really big business all over the globe, I doubt that people went around introducing themselves by saying that, hey, I'm Mr. So, I'm a capitalist. I don't think they did that sort of thing back in the day. So, bottom line, stick to the old labels. They work just fine. My own opinion, I think we're all salespeople, so we're all salesmen and saleswomen first and foremost, even though the goal ultimately is to build sustainable businesses that can stand apart from us and that we can hand over as assets to our children when we are no longer here. So I think it's okay to start with the old terms: saleswoman, businesswoman, I'm self-employed, whatever it is. Learn the discipline behind that, apply it, and you'll be fine. But ultimately, I guess whatever it is that helps with your motivation is good. If it works, I guess there's no need to. If it's working, there's no need to break the formula. So if this whole mompreneur, fempreneur thing carried you for a while, carried you for the last year or two, then I guess we can be grateful for that, and we hope that we'll find some new wind that will help motivate and carry you over the next stretch. But if you're going to listen to an old foggy like me, I really think we should stick to the old labels, learn the art, the craft, the theory, the discipline behind it, and then we'll be fine over the long run. So that's it for today's podcast episode. I guess that's the closest thing I've come to a rant recently. And with that, I'll bring it to a close. So thank you very much, guys, for listening to the Sales for the Nigerian Wedding Industry podcast. I'm your host, Abuja-based event and wedding photographer, Tavishima Ayede. I will catch you guys on the next recording.